Hey, ladies and gents, Controlled Interest back here with a review discussion, and we're doing something that no one on the internet has done before. We're talking about Batman versus Superman. I know. It's a strange topic here on the internet. You probably haven't seen anybody give any of their opinions on it, and we're going to be the first people to do that here on the internet. So all of us have seen the movie. Dom saw it before Jordan and I did. I think Jordan was actually the last one to see it out of us three. I'm going to start off. I think this movie was hated for it was hated too much for not any specific reason. Like, I think a lot of the things people were hating on it for, people were reaching. There are definitely a lot of holes in this movie. It's a lot of things happening at once, which I expected going in. For me, I'll give a definitive thing first of all. I liked the movie. I liked it a lot. Not a lot. I liked it. I like what it did. I expected it to be a blur of a lot of different things. I'm not a super DC fanboy, but I do appreciate and I know a little bit about Batman and Superman enough for I got a lot of these references and stuff like that. The things it did good, I think it set up the universe very well. I liked Ben Affleck as Batman. What else? I liked the way they introduced all of the side characters except for Aquaman. I loved Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Awesome. My dislikes. I think that there was way too much Lois Lane in this movie. Way too much Lois Lane. To the point of there was scenes in there that she didn't even need to be in. I felt that the whole Doomsday thing was blown too early. I agree with a lot of people on that. But it makes sense, them having to get a bang out there, starting with the bang. I felt that there was a lot of cool things, though, that are going to be setting up this universe. But for me, it was a solid. I liked it. It was what I expected. Wasn't great. I think it's better than the second Thor movie. I think it was better than Iron Man 3, in my opinion. I don't think it was as bad as people say it is. I think it was better than anything in Nolan's trilogy except for The Dark Knight, obviously.
Whoa, okay.
Okay.
I don't think the first or the third movie were good. I think
Batman Begins is a great movie, dude.
I thought it was boring.
Well, Pandora's box just got opened, Jared.
Okay, that'll be a discussion a little bit later on.
Up so we can rip you to shreds, Jared.
But for me, it was a good movie. I liked it.
All right, I'm gonna hop in. I think this was. Well, I guess for some background, I thought I was a big Batman fan. I loved the Chris Nolan movies. Turns out I don't know shit about Batman or Superman or the DC universe because I was just like, what the heck is going on?
Really? Oh, wow.
But, I mean, besides that, this is, I think, from a movie point of view, this is a bad movie. I don't think, like, as you're critiquing a movie, you can come to any other conclusion that it's just a bad movie. Like, granted, I'm really glad I saw it. I mean, I recommend everyone goes and sees it that's into anything remotely close to superheroes or anything. You should go and see it. But the motivations of basically all the characters were just non-existent to me. Batman, while Ben Affleck was good, his character as Batman was way underutilized, I thought. His motivations really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, particularly, and we are entering spoiler zone, obviously.
It's going to be full of spoilers, so if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the movie, leave the video now.
So
delete your Twitter account.
There's a big moment at the end of the actual fight between Batman and Superman where they decide, maybe we shouldn't be fighting and we need to go take on Lex Luthor, which, I mean, everyone knew that was coming,
because our moms
obviously
have the same name, Dom.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
I was like, what? Wait, I was waiting for something really good because it really didn't make sense the way Superman tried to explain himself as to why they were fighting, when he first lands.
Yeah, the Martha thing's dumb. I'll agree with you on that. It was really dumb.
Yeah, and then, where did you hear that name? Like, seriously? That's what is going to give you this revelation?
Newspaper that surrounded the death of your parents, Bruce?
Why did Superman not just land and say, they're holding my mom hostage. They're going to kill her unless I kill you. Like, let's figure this out. I mean, obviously, that there wouldn't be a fight, and then the title of the movie wouldn't make sense. But they needed to have set up something better to give that fight motivation. Because to me, it just, granted, the fight itself was awesome. All the action was fantastic in this movie, but the motivation were just so confusing to me. The flashbacks or the dream sequences were just it didn't work for me. And then so going back to where I said I didn't really understand a lot of what was going on when the Flash came in.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea who he was. Had no idea he was traveling in time. That completely went over my head. I looked over to my buddy and I was like, "Who the hell was that guy? Like, what is it? Like, what's going on?"
Oh, wow.
And later, I mean, we figured it out. And we also figured out who Cyborg was. Or granted, I just that part I should have got. And yeah, Aquaman was lame the way they kind of threw him in there, but it, I don't know. It was just not a good movie.
See, I
cool
think
stuff went
the
on,
thing
but-
too is I didn't go into that expecting to see a quality movie experience. It's not like I was expecting to see like, I don't know, Inception or something. I went into it as a comic book experience, and yeah, it wasn't great. There was a lot of bad things about the movie, but it did make me excited for what's to come. As a
and
pure
Lex
movie,
Luthor?
I agree it's not great, but that's not what I looked at it as. So
Like I had no idea what the hell Lex Luthor was babbling on about at the end.
You mean Lex Luthor Jr., the son of the real Lex Luthor?
Yeah, I was. The bell has rung. Like, okay, what? I mean, some of my complaints aren't fair because this is obviously made for a fan of the universe who knows things. So take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I was like, why is Jesse Eisenberg just babbling on and tapping his fingers? And it was almost there with him. It was almost there, but it just didn't quite click with me for him.
So, I think I'm in the middle of you two guys. Jared, you said you liked it, and Dominic, you said you definitely didn't.
Well,
I don't think
I
it's-
liked it. It's just a bad movie, I think.
it's a bad movie,
okay.
but you respect what it's trying to set up, I'm assuming?
I mean, I'm glad I went and watched it. It was an okay experience. I mean, it's something I want to be a part of. I want to know all
Yeah,
this. Hopefully it improves, but as a movie, I just think it's not a good movie.
So, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, and I wouldn't say it's a good movie. I think it's a very, severely mediocre movie.
Mm-hmm.
It has, problems top to bottom. Every aspect of the movie has, major, major flaws. So it could never be, in my mind, an even, decent movie. Just starting off from the first few scenes, you get all these, chopped up little bits from all over the world. You get Batman witnessing the fight in Metropolis between Superman and Zod. You get Lois Lane out in the middle of the Middle East. You just kind of get all these little pieces, and then it gets into Clark jumping in the bathtub with Lois, and them working at the planet and stuff like that. And there's never a point in this movie where the story feels cohesive. There's never a point where you're like, okay, they're going this way, and I see what they're doing here. So the story is just all fractured and disjointed, and it's just a mess.
Well, it's because it's DC catch up the movie. It's what it is. They're trying to catch up to Marvel so they can start the cinematic universe, and there was no way this movie could have been great or even a solid good because they have so much they need to try to fit in, right?
See, but I totally disagree with that because it's 2.5 hours, and all the universe building they do happens within about a minute and a half when
Yep.
Wonder Woman gets on her laptop. So we've gotten, 10 or 12 years of these Marvel movies with Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, Cap 1, 2, and now 3, Thor 1 and 2, Incredible Hulk. You get all these world-building movies, and then you literally get a 30-second clip for each character in the Justice League.
The biggest problem with this movie was the director, I think.
Sure, but the writing's bad
The
too.
writing,
I mean,
too.
the dialogue is terrible. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can piss in a bucket and call it Granny's peach tea if you want. There's
That
crap
scene,
like
that scene when they were
Oh.
in court and she just was there mumbling was really weird.
There's just there's so much wrong with it. The writing, the dialogue, moment to moment is really bad. There's almost no character development whatsoever. If anybody gets their character developed, it's Lois Lane, which, way overused in this movie. She's supposed to be the human connection that we really don't even need. Really, the reason that she's in there so much is because Amy Adams is the one who's one of the big name actresses in this movie. But yeah, there's no character development. You get the one scene with Clark jumping in the bathtub. With
the trailers
Lois.
ruined everything.
Yeah, and then of course
11 and a half minutes of the movie were through trailers.
Of course, the one time that Superman does something awesome for Lois, he goes and screws everything up out there in the Middle East for her. So like, there's just they didn't know what they were going for. Really.
Also, the
like,
fact that they killed Jimmy Olsen in the first like 3 minutes of the movie.
yeah, they're just like so many things that happen in this movie where I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? You're really telling me that you can piss in a bucket and call it Granny's peach tea, like stuff like that, where you're just like the beginning. You know, Dom, you talked about the dream sequences or the vision sequences. And they did such a terrible job of like explaining, hey, this is real, this isn't. You know, the Flash thing, you couldn't tell if that was a dream
I had no
or
idea
real.
what that was.
They just did a really terrible job as filmmakers of guiding you into that section of the film and letting you know, hey, this is a dream sequence or this is a vision. For example, the movie starts out with Bruce Wayne flying. He just starts floating up in the air. They literally copy and paste the Christopher Nolan version of the death of Bruce Wayne's parents. Copy and paste it so much that it looks like he falls down the same damn well. It looks like the exact same well. And then the bats come at him, just like Batman Begins, and then he just starts floating in the air. And I try not to be rude at movies. Like, I try to keep my mouth shut and let everybody enjoy. But I was cackling. I was just laughing at the top of my lungs because I was like, they just started this movie out with Bruce Wayne having superpowers, and how am I supposed to know, oh, this is a dream sequence, oh, this is a vision? They don't tell you, they don't show you as filmmakers, and so you're just like, okay, Batman can fly now.
And so they're not gonna give me any explanation at all as to who the Flash was and how he's talking to Bruce right there. But then they're gonna show a whole scene explaining how Bruce's parents were killed, which I had no idea how that happened. Like,
yeah, exactly.
For me, I had no difficulty understanding when... I agree with you that it's dumb that they chose to hold hands on parts that weren't necessary and the parts that they possibly could have held your hand and told you stuff they didn't. That was weird. It's either like go 100 or go 0. You know, don't specify when you want to hold your hand. Because for like me personally, I had no trouble seeing, you know, when he was waiting for the thing to download, he fell asleep and that was a dream sequence and he woke up. And the Flash sequence of him coming back in time is actually something from the comics. So I had no problem with that. Another thing, and this is all like from the comics, so if you don't really know a lot of it, then you're not going to be familiar. Right. Which I understand the hand-holding part, but on the opposite spectrum, it's like it's Batman versus Superman. It's, you know, it's a very weird discussion to have of like how much hand-holding should they do and how much should they not, right? But for like me, a lot of the stuff like Batwayne, Batman's motivation. Especially when they show such an emphasis on the Robin suit, is like this is taking from like, you know, a death in the family kind of Batman where he's been retired for a while and he's very angry and mad and he partially has like PTSD and stuff like that. So I understand some of his motivations.
You mean Dark Knight Returns?
Well, the Robin thing is from a death in the family.
Yeah, but like the older Batman.
Yeah. From the retirement, all that stuff. Yeah. It's just like I understand that there should be a little bit more hand holding, but it was what I expected. I did not expect the movie to be as, like you guys said, where there's like a lot of like plot holes and it just seems lazy and bad writing. Like definitely what I didn't want and not what I expected. But I did expect this to be a little bit convoluted and a little bit tough to understand and stuff like that. It kind of bothers me that Snyder's going to be the director for Justice League. It seems like that's kind of a weird hill to die on with that director when you're trying to build a cinematic universe. I think Marvel's hit it out of the park with the Russo brothers. I think they're going to be great for Marvel. I just don't necessarily think that Snyder's the man to direct this cinematic universe in the right direction. I really hope that Ben Affleck directs the Batman movie. Is that confirmed? Or is it just a rumor?
I heard he was writing it.
He's got a script for it, yeah. It's a thing, but who knows if it'll actually come out. I mean, I agree with you the fact that Zack Snyder's probably not the dude. I like some of Zack Snyder's stuff, but the reason that I like Zack Snyder's stuff is like Sucker Punch, for example, or Watchmen. These movies know what they're trying to do, and they go for it, and they achieve it. And people don't like his movies because, oh, Sucker Punch is stupid. Oh, it's just a bunch of video game boss fights or whatever. And I get that, and they're not necessarily like the greatest films of all time, but they set out to achieve something, and they do just that. And so that's why I enjoy Sucker Punches, because it's supposed to be a big, goofy action movie. and that's what it is. This movie has no idea what the hell it wants to be. It has no
Exactly.
idea where the hell it's going. They make these stupid jokes about, once again, Granny's peach tea, and then the rest of the movie is just like dour and dim and sad and dark, and like it's like unnecessarily so. They went way overboard with it, and it doesn't have to be fun and jovial the entire time, but like this movie took itself way too seriously without ever having. If you're gonna have a really serious movie like this, like for example Inception, where it has like this, you know, deep and enthralling plot line, and it's got these concepts that are like really big, like really sci-fi and like really, you know, progressive thought, then you have to like, if you're gonna be that serious movie, then you have to go for it and know what you're doing, know what you're getting into. But this movie was just like, oh well, it's, you know, Batman and Superman, and I'd really honestly like to make a Batman movie more than I'd like to make Man of Steel, so let's just make it a super dark Batman movie where he murders a bunch of people, and like, you know, Superman's kind of just there. But Superman doesn't even get to say anything worthwhile in this movie. He's just like, it's almost like he's just being like tossed around from plot point to plot point, and he never has that purpose where you're like, oh, this is why Superman's here.
He had one great line though, when he first goes to fight Batman, where he says, you know, you'd be dead already if I wanted it. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that part.
I just feel like, you know, I am like a really big DC fan. I'm a huge Batman fan, and I feel like I've been waiting on this Justice League or these Batman Superman movies for like over 10 years now. They've been basically since, you know, Marvel started getting their crap together with Iron Man and Hulk and everything. DC, there's been rumors of a Justice League movie, and so for 10 plus years now I've been excited for this, and I just realized sitting in that theater, like, this is not even close to what I wanted, and the universe that they're setting up is not even close to what I want them to set up. With a 2.5 hour runtime, you have plenty of time to introduce those other four Justice League members, and not just in some tiny computer clip, but like actually introduce them and bring them into the plot in meaningful ways. And they were just like thrown by the wayside, and oh well, we got to get these guys in here because we got this big movie slate coming up, so how are we going to do that? Oh well, let's have Batman and Wonder Woman have a little, you know, Skype call or, you know, Skype conversation about
Have
it.
Aquaman float around for a few seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, really? This is how you're introducing these legendary superheroes?
Like, it would be
Like,
cool if in the fight at the end, when, you know, like Wonder Woman lassos him and everything, that'd be cool if they're like through the whole movie they were introducing these characters, and then that's when we get the Justice League / Avengers moment, right, where they're all like, instead of it just being Batman, what is the Holy Trinity, instead of it just being them, that's when you could have had these people fight too, and that even builds more hype for the Justice League movie of seeing all these characters at the same time, you know?
think about this. If there's like, you know, this big bombastic scene between the big three and Doomsday, and they're basically just like, you know, back and forth and back and forth, and there's not really any like, the fight wasn't very dynamic. It was just like, hey, let's destroy a big island and not have to hear about it from the fans because it doesn't have any people on it. You know, let's just like make this battle as big as we can. What if instead each one of those extra four members of the Justice League that they introduced were introduced through that battle? So you have Superman punch Doomsday into the water, and then all of a sudden he flies right back out and slaps on the ground. They're like, what the hell was that? And then Aquaman busts out of the water and jumps on land, and
It's Vincent Chase.
and he just like kicked Doomsday out of his kingdom. It's like, oh shit, there's Aquaman. Or like, you know, you do the same thing with Flash or Cyborg, and you could have these cool ways of introducing them, as opposed to, oh look, Flash stopped a robbery. Here, we've got some security cam footage. This is real interesting.
So in movie fights, Max Landis was pitching Man of Steel 2, and you know the whole controversy was how many things were destroyed in Man of Steel and how many people died and all that stuff.
Right.
His take on it was, wouldn't it be interesting to set up the Justice League? And there's a lot more to it, but I'm going to get into the specific bullet point here. Is like when they're fighting for this, it was Lex and one of his robots, but we'll replace that with Doomsday. they're fighting him in a city location where there's buildings, where there's people, and this whole time they're fighting, and there's only 2 people or maybe even 1 person at a time fighting Doomsday, and everyone else is making sure they're doing situation control, where if he throws something, it doesn't, destroy a building. So at the end of the fight, Doomsday is defeated, Lex is there, and he's like, you may have stopped me, but look what all the destruction you did. And he actually looks around, and nothing was destroyed because the Justice League made sure that everything was spotless,
and they would keep each other in check too, power-wise, kind of like what they're starting to put together with Civil War.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that this has a lot of promise for the universe. I just am scared that Snyder's directing Justice League. I like who they got to play Flash. I do agree with you that the way they introduced characters is dumb. I do like Momoa as Aquaman. I think that's cool. I do like the guy playing Cyborg. I think the universe has a chance to be cool, and I like that it's darker. I do agree with you that sometimes there's not a point to be dark for dark's sake, right?
Yeah.
If there's not a story to care about, then what's the point of being dark? I do think, though, it has a chance to be different than Marvel, and that's what I want, because I go to Marvel expecting a certain experience, and apparently Civil War is darker than anything they've done, which is good to hear. How dark that'll be, the bar's kind of low on that, so you don't know, but when they say that. We have Suicide Squad that is actually doing reshoots now because they feel as if the movie isn't funny enough.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Which is, all movies have reshoots, but that's interesting. I'm excited for Suicide Squad. I actually thought the movie was going to suck until they did the trailer with Bohemian Rhapsody, and it got me real excited because I love Queen. The Wonder Woman movie scares me for the simple fact that I think it's going to be a Captain America situation where I personally like the first Captain America film. A lot of people didn't like it. I understand why. It's a period piece. People don't like those kind of things. I think it might suffer from that, but I am excited for where this can go. I'm more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy, though, so my stakes, I don't have a lot of stakes in this fight as far as DC pulling off something great. I will say I've been watching Young Justice. DC knows how to do animated stuff.
That's
way better
sure.
than Marvel.
Yeah. See, DC's had their shit together when it comes to animated stuff. And I was actually just about to mention, I'm glad you brought that up. If you guys want, anybody listening wants to see what a good version of this movie could have been, getting the Justice League together, check out Justice League War, which is one of those animated features. And it's basically just a straight-to-screen adaptation of the first 6 issues of Justice League New 52. And it's not a Justice League that's already all together and kicking ass. It's a Justice League that's being brought together piece by piece. So
it's on Netflix, right?
Justice League War might be.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. I can check on my phone here, but I just feel like we talked about how you could have introduced the Justice League, and I feel like I know there's probably not a ton of kids who saw this movie because it is so dark, but I'm sure there's kids going to see it. What kid is going to walk away from that movie going, "Oh, the Flash is so awesome. Cyborg is so cool. I want to be just like Aquaman."
Yeah.
And better yet, there's probably no kids that are like, "Oh, Superman's so cool in his dark blue uniform." And Batman's so great murdering all those innocent people. I just think that, well, I guess not innocent, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that there's just not a whole lot that was appealing about this movie where it's oh yeah, I would say for me the highlight of the movie is Batman. Ben Affleck did a great job. Now he spends a lot more time as Bruce Wayne than Batman, which is a travesty in itself, but either way, Bruce or Bats, I think he does a great job with. So
he's in general a phenomenal actor, and I was reminded of that.
Sure.
I have a question. Did you guys like Lex Luthor? Because I liked him.
I thought he was all right. I think I could see people complaining about him a lot as soon as I watched the movie. Mm-hmm. But I was okay with it because you could have just gone with the regular old Michael Rosenbaum thing, which he did a great job with. But I think that Jesse Eisenberg kind of taking a chance with this, that was, one of the actual interesting parts of the movie as opposed to the rest of it, which was kind of boring.
Well, so for me, Marvel does this thing where their superheroes in their movies are very eccentric and the villains are boring, right?
Yeah.
in these, it seems like they're going to do the opposite. And I don't want to say boring, but like, you know, more serious. Whereas it seems like all the villains are going to be more eccentric. That's why you have the Jared Leto Joker. You have the, obviously, Lex Luthor the way he is. It seems like they're going to be flipping that. And one thing I've always appreciated about DC, so for me, I like Marvel because I like their superheroes more because to me they're more relatable. A lot of them have issues. But Marvel's villains suck. I hate Marvel's villains. I couldn't name a single Marvel villain that I think is fantastic.
You're talking about comic books or movies?
Yes. I love DC villains. I love the Joker. There are so many there are so many DC villains that I really appreciate because they're really cool and I like their design and like their you know, the whole reason why they're doing what they're doing. The Killing Joke, if you guys haven't read that, is phenomenal.
Must
one
read.
Of the best. Yeah, it's one of the best pieces of, you know, comic book lore that I've ever read. It's just really cool. I just want to put it out there and say that, like, I really hope that the DC villains live up to the hype, because for me personally, that's my favorite part about DC. And I eventually want to see something with Nightwing, because Nightwing is my favorite DC superhero.
Hell yeah.
I would love to see something with Nightwing. If you guys haven't checked it out, there's actually a series, a fan-made series by Ish Mahawk on YouTube, a short Nightwing series that's like 5 episodes. It's really cool. So since we've talked about how much we liked or disliked this movie and stuff like that, since we've talked about, you know, Snyder being maybe not the best person to run this whole ship, do you guys have anybody in mind that you would want to, like, you know, do something with DC? Like, is there a director you want to direct one of these DC movies to maybe get it in the right direction that you want to see?
So going forward, I'm most looking forward to this hopefully solo Batman film. Just because it's not really how it's supposed to work. I mean, we're supposed to be looking forward to Justice League, right? But I want to see what Ben Affleck can do on his own, and if he's writing and if he's directing it himself too. Like, I want to check that out. But as far as replacing Zack Snyder or someone else, I don't know who it would be, but not him, unless he can learn from this, I guess, and do something a little different. But I don't know.
First of all, Justice League War is available on Netflix, so stream it today. It's a great movie.
Stream it now.
Not while you're watching this, of course. But anyways, for me, I'm not quite sure. I think that as far as like people to helm this series or whatever, you know, for a long time, Joss Whedon was like the dude over at Marvel, but a lot of people, you know that really it's Kevin Feige that's been spearheading the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it wouldn't be anywhere without him. And I think that the Russo brothers are definitely well equipped to take it into the future. But for me, it's not so much as one guy or one woman as much as it is a solid team of people.
Yeah, that's what you need, right?
Yeah, that can usher this into the future, because that's really what we need to get these great Justice League movies. Yeah, I don't know necessarily that there is a guy or a woman or, you know, anybody in particular to do the job, but I just think that it's clear to me that the people that made this movie have read some comics, some DC comics, and some, you know, graphic novels or whatever, but they're not necessarily like so in love with it that they're like willing to go where they need to go, because I don't think that they necessarily got these characters. Like, first of all, I don't think Henry Cavill is a great Superman. And I think that they don't know how to use him. I think that Batman was underused. Not Bruce Wayne, but Batman was totally underused in this movie. And the parts where he was used, he was freaking murdering guys. And that's not something that Batman does. And if
that threw me off.
If you want to tell that story, that's okay. It's been done before, but you have to, like, preface it. You have to, like, mention the fact that, hey, yeah, Batman's killing people. They literally never talk about it once in the movie, and it's like, that's huge. That's so huge, you know, that Batman would just kill people, and so nonchalantly at that. You know, like, of course, big DC fans do recognize Flash coming through the space-time continuum. We know that he has, like, time powers and stuff. But just because they did that doesn't necessarily mean that they're big DC fanboys, and I think that they could have done so many things that would have like solidified the fact that, oh, they really know and get DC Comics. And I don't think they did that. I feel like, the two main characters is where they screwed up the most. They didn't have this is not a great Superman movie, and it's not a great Batman movie, and Wonder Woman's not in it enough to, take the cake herself. So
let's get everybody's closing, 1 to 2 sentences on Batman versus Superman, or maybe this DC universe as a whole.
All right. It does not hold a candle to any of the Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah, definitely not better than Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises, which I don't think is nearly as bad as people say, especially now watching this movie. I'm still excited about the Justice League just because I've wanted that for so long, but this definitely took it down a notch.
For me, if you're a fan of DC and you're passionate about it and you want to see this universe evolve, I think this is a movie you should watch. As bad or good as it is, I think it's something that would be good for you just to know and have a little bit of reference to. If you're somebody who's a casual superhero fan, which is completely nothing wrong with that, I think you can pass on this movie. I think you can just wait for the standalone Batman movie or whatever, go into Justice League. I think it's there for people who want a little bit more, but you're not gonna ruin yourself by not watching this movie and getting into Justice League and all the other movies.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us for our first review discussion. First one of these that we've done. It was on Batman vs. Superman, a very hot topic. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And we'll definitely catch you guys in the next one. Any closing thoughts, Jordan, Dom?
Beyond!
Dom? Smash the dunst.
Smash the dunst, as always. Catch you guys next time. Bye.